Hi, welcome to the National Critics' Choice Online News. And today we have a very important guest with us from France, and that is none other than Madame Marlene Soria, and also Mr. Frank, who's the owner of this wonderful restaurant called Provence Le Restaurant in Singapore. Marlene, thank you for joining us here at the National Critics' Choice show. Please tell us more about your winery in France, and also what is unique about your wines that you made this year.
Ok. Alors, monsieur veut savoir après, sur un peu d'informations sur le domaine et un peu qu'est-ce qui se passe en ce moment. Voilà, so it's a very long question you're asking. For the domain, for the happening and the history of domain for Marlene Soria.
Oh,
Est-ce que je lui réponds?
Vas-y un peu comment tu as commencé comme ça.
Oui, c'était la création de ce domaine, ça remonte à un petit peu plus d'une trentaine d'années. Donc c'était au début des années, fin des années 70, début des plantations début des années 80. C'est dans le Languedoc, donc ça se situe domaine Pays-Rose entre Montpellier et Béziers.
Okay, I have to dire ça. So, Domaine Peyre-Rose started 30 years ago, in the late 70s. It's located between Montpellier and Béziers in Languedoc area in southern France. Yeah, that's where he started.
Donc c'est un domaine de 25 hectares environ.
25 hectares, about 50 acres of vineyards.
Donc les plantations se sont échelonnées à peu près sur une dizaine d'années. Dont les premières récoltes, c'est une production de vin rouge essentiellement, avec une première récolte en 88.
Okay. So mostly now from all these vineyards, she's producing several wines, but the first wine she produced was a red wine back in 1988.
Ensuite, quoi dire?
She planted all the vineyards. One thing to understand is that Marlene, she bought this property in southern France, and she was not at all into winemaking. There is no family background or history of winemaking, and she purchased a property, but there was no vineyard, some house and so on. She was a real estate agent at this time, and she saw this place that she was showing. She was with some people, and she thought, yeah, maybe I should buy it for myself, and that's what she did. And so, early 70s, she bought the property, and 10 years later, she decided, okay, why don't we make wine? Because of course it's a wine area. But again, no experience whatsoever for winemaking, viticulture, agriculture, no experience. But yet she starts, and from early 80s to 87, 82 to 87, she planted all the vineyards that she has today and that are producing wine, all this in the 80s. And first wine made was in 1988.
So what will be the 3 key lessons that she has learned from this experience?
Dis, c'est quoi les leçons que tu as appris de démarrer comme ça, complètement inattendu, de rien, quoi?
Les leçons, ça m'a permis d'apprendre un petit peu à tout faire, donc de la vigne à la cave. Je n'ai pas eu d'a priori, donc j'ai toujours travaillé à l'instinct. Donc je fais confiance à un terroir superbe. Et je crois que tout est dans le terroir.
Well, most of the lessons she learned is obviously to first trust her instinct, because basically she had no formal training. So everything she did is trust what you feel is right. Trust also the quality of the land where she is, which is, again, even though it was not planted, it's a very famous area in France for winemaking. In fact, the oldest region in France for winemaking. even before Bordeaux or Burgundy, they ever saw vines planted in this region. There were vines that were planted by the Greeks and the Romans. So yeah, it's really being able to be multitask, do everything, because you start, you don't really know what you're going to do, and trust a feeling and an instinct making wine. Yeah.
What is a good terroir in her perspective today?
C'est comme un bon terroir pour toi.
Pour moi, c'est un terroir. Bon, on a de très bonnes conditions climatiques, c'est sûr, mais ce dont j'ai été persuadée avant tout, c'est que il fallait avoir un terroir vivant, et j'ai eu la chance de tomber sur un endroit où il n'y avait jamais eu de culture, et donc des plantations. J'ai toujours été persuadée qu'il fallait travailler de façon la plus simple possible, en respectant la nature, et donc alors que ce n'était pas dans l'air du temps à l'époque, moi j'ai toujours été en culture biologique, et je pense que ça m'a apporté beaucoup.
So for her terroir, great terroir is of course what you would expect, this mix of quality of soil and climate. But in her case it goes much further, because she said when she started planting all the vineyards that she planted, she was very lucky, she feels, to plant it in a very virgin area where there was never any culture of any sort, meaning no usage of any kind of products, natural or chemical products. It was totally wild. So, to have this image of terroir that is accurate, she feels it's very important to really respect this natural way. And the moment she planted, she really made sure that she did not disturb this expression, natural expression, by using all kind of chemical products, whether it's weed killers or insecticides or chemical fertilizers. So all the products she uses are natural bio products, basically, that respect the identity of this terroir that she has.
If she did not start this wine business, would she have regretted it, after she had bought the land? And what will be her advice to all the women in the world? What would she like to tell all the women in the world?
Si tu n'avais pas fait du vin, tu penses que tu regretterais de ne pas l'avoir fait ou... Non.
Non, comment savoir? Non,
Ouais.
je n'imagine pas comme ça, c'est-à-dire, bon, c'est une aventure, on démarre, on s'investit dedans, et c'est tous les jours, c'est parce quelque
Et
chose.
pourquoi tu as décidé de démarrer avec l'or? C'était 10 ans après. 10 ans après que tu aies racheté la propriété, pourquoi tu te dis d'un coup, tiens, je vais planter des vignes?
C'était le désir de changer de vie, c'était une opportunité à un certain moment de pouvoir le faire.
Ce qui était quand même l'idée quand tu as acheté la propriété?
Non, pas du tout. Non, l'idée c'était de vivre dans cet environnement-là, de profiter, de changer de vie. Et changer de vie, donc il fallait trouver. Moi, je ne pouvais pas rester sans rien faire non plus. Donc au départ, je l'ai vu comme une toute petite aventure, mais planter un tout petit peu. Et le problème, c'est qu'au lieu de planter 3 hectares, j'en ai planté 17 d'un seul coup. Et donc après, je me suis retrouvée attachée dans l'aventure, donc obligée de continuer et puis à découvrir autre chose. Donc c'est quelque chose
Difficult for her to imagine what it would be not doing what she did, because in fact there was no particular premeditation on this. She purchased this property, just the house, very humble house. She didn't have any clue that she would make wine at this time. And so she bought, and she started planting only 10 years after. And it was more a desire for her to change lifestyle, Again, she was a property agent, something more business oriented. Suddenly you want to get away from all this and go and buy a property in totally wild and a place that is far away from everything. And then when she started planting, she said, okay, first she thought, okay, we plant a bit of vineyards just to see what we can do. But instead of planting very little, she started to plant quite a bit. And suddenly she gets totally, drawn into this whole winemaking lifestyle, because when you do that and you don't have a lot of employees, you have to do a lot of things. Suddenly, every day, you have to look after the vine, and it's something that she got sucked into somehow, and in the end, now she cannot imagine not doing that. And then, après, monsieur a demandé autre chose. Qu'est-ce que tu aurais comme conseil à donner à d'autres femmes qui font des choses comme ça, qui démarrent dans quelque chose? It's a bit of a general question. What would be your advice to other women? Because it really depends what you're doing, I guess. But
if all the women were to pursue a career, an alternative career in say being a winemaker or owning a vineyard, yes.
Oui. Tu dis si quelqu'un d'autre, tes conseils, tes recommandations, tes observations, quelqu'un, une autre femme qui voudrait un peu faire quelque chose comme toi, de démarrer un vignoble de zéro.
Mais tout peut se faire, mais à certains moments, je pense que dans certaines situations, il faut pouvoir bénéficier d'un petit peu de chance. Donc moi j'ai eu cette chance-là, j'ai eu des moments difficiles parce que j'ai vinifié, j'ai eu une récolte, 2 récoltes, 3 récoltes, j'avais pas de clients. Mais j'ai eu la chance d'avoir des éléments qui ont fait que chaque fois je passais juste financièrement, mais je pouvais passer. Donc j'ai eu une part de chance avec moi aussi. Parce que j'ai démarré sans trésorerie, sans rien. Donc tant qu'on peut avancer, on avance, il faut croire.
Main advice for her, based on her own experience, obviously, because when she started again, there was no plan. There was no financial project or budget or anything. She just started doing this by instinct, and she said, yeah, probably one important thing when you do what she did is to have a fair bit of luck, because that's what she required. Because when she started making wine, 1 vintage, 2 vintages, 3 vintages, and yet she was making wine, but she said, I had no clients, I had no clue who I'm going to sell this to. And every time it was really, really, really difficult to get all the money, enough money just to keep on going. But every time she managed, she pushed more. She had the necessary amount of luck just to carry on, and that's not that normal. So I guess it's probably some determination and focus on.
Moi, j'ai eu une route différente de certaines personnes qui s'installent, qui avant ont projeté comment allait s'organiser la vente du vin. Moi, je ne suis pas partie comme ça. Il me semblait, quand je plantais, qu'il suffisait de faire du vin et qu'on arrivait à le vendre en fonction de la qualité. Mais à l'époque, on n'avait pas de marché sur la région. Le problème était là. Maintenant, c'est totalement différent.
When she started, she thought, okay, she had no. She did not start this project again thinking, all right, I'm going to make wine, then I'm going to bottle it, then I have a plan, how am I going to sell it, how am I going to market it, and so no such thing. Some people, when they start, of course, they don't really start to look ahead. That was not the case. And for her in the mind, so you're making wine, you think you're making good wine, you're going to sell it. And mind you, that was back in the early 80s, where her region, Languedoc, was really, really in a very dire situation, where most of the wines produced there were really mass market wines that were not particularly interesting. So the names of Languedoc was people were not looking at it for quality wines, in fact, at the time.
So when you first produced your first bottle of wine, what do you pair with? What sort of food do you pair with? And what kind of cuisine does she cannot live without every time she produces a new batch of wines?
Je me demande quand tu faisais tes vins, est-ce que tu avais des idées sur la cuisine, quel vin allait être, quel mets allait être dégusté avec les vins, ou si tu avais quelque chose? Non.
Pour moi, une sommelière un jour m'a dit, Marlène, vous avez des vins guerriers. sommelier de vin guerrier. Elle m'a dit de toute façon, vous pouvez mettre votre vin avec n'importe quel plat, il saura se placer par rapport au plat, il n'y aura pas de difficulté. Elle m'a dit, moi je les associe, les rouges, les blancs, je ne fais pas des choses un petit peu comme ça, mais il y a d'autres soucis que...
Well, at the time, she said she didn't have much preoccupation about what kind of food pairing and so on. Of course, in a region, that's southern France style of cuisine. Even though she confessed to me the other day that she's not a particularly remarkable cook. So she's always cooking very simple. In fact, her husband is cooking more than she. But then she started like this. She said, my preoccupation was so much on wine, and already it's a big deal to make all this wine that you don't really have a chance to think how is he going to be paired with. But she mentioned that, of course, as she made this wine, some different sommeliers were tasting the wine, and one lady sommelier in France told her that, yeah, she said, your wines are really, she said, vin guerrier in French. Guerrier is a warrior. It's a warrior's wine. A warrior's wine because she said these kind of wines, they can fight with any kind of food. They are very versatile. You put any kind of food on it. Obviously, the food of southern France would match because it's a natural environment. But she said your wines are such intensity, and the way they are built, they can fight against any food or fight or stand up to any kind of food. And well, yeah, she thought, okay, at least it's a wider spectrum for.
It's amazing how your wine has been built over many years in terms of reputation. Could you tell us how did your wine was first discovered, even by Robert Parker himself? And at the same time, does she have a plan B if she had failed?
Alors deux questions. Il demande un peu justement à tes débuts comment tu as réussi à te faire connaître par la presse, notamment, je ne sais pas, Parker ou d'autres journalistes aux États-Unis. Et la deuxième question, on peut en revenir après, c'est est-ce qu'il y avait un autre plan si jamais c'était un fiasco complet, quoi?
Non, ça je n'ai jamais envisagé.
So plan B, there was none. To start with, that's she tried.
Et la première question, non, je n'ai jamais su m'occuper parce que moi j'étais toute seule, donc je travaillais au début, donc je travaillais dans les vignes, j'avais personne qui m'aidait, de temps en temps je prenais vraiment quand j'étais trop débordée une aide ponctuelle, donc j'étais très occupée, je ne connaissais pas du tout le côté commercial, et c'est quelqu'un qui, un échantillon de vin s'est retrouvé à Paris dans une grande dégustation. Et c'est un agent pour les États-Unis qui était à cette dégustation et qui a flashé sur les vins. Et donc voilà, il est venu au domaine. Moi à l'époque, je ne savais même pas que M. Parker existait, je ne savais pas qui c'était. Donc,
et la personne, c'est un Américain qui était agent commercial.
Oui, c'est un Américain qui habitait à Paris et qui était agent pour les États-Unis. Et donc, un jour, il m'a téléphoné. Donc, je voyais personne m'enfermer dans mon coin. Le Languedoc n'était pas vraiment lancé encore, et il m'a dit, Madame Soria, j'ai eu un coup de cœur pour vos vins, je voudrais en savoir un petit peu plus. Ça a été une très grande discussion au téléphone. Il s'était présenté, donc je ne le connaissais pas. Et il m'a dit, avant de raccrocher, je vous rappellerai parce que je voudrais bien venir vous voir, et donc je vous rappellerai pour vous dire quand je peux venir. Et d'ici là, vous pouvez vous renseigner à mon sujet. Je travaille beaucoup avec Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Je travaille en Bourgogne, elle m'a cité des noms de domaines que je ne connaissais même pas. Et bon, le soir, quand mon mari est arrivé, j'étais excitée comme une puce. Je me disais, il y a quelqu'un qui a dit que c'était la vérité. Et puis, bon, 2 jours, 3 jours, je me suis dit, après, bon, le monsieur s'est un petit peu emballé, la personne était retrouvée, je ne croyais plus. Et puis non, il m'a rappelé, il est venu, il a dégusté tous mes vins. J'avais quand même en cave, j'avais 4 récoltes, donc j'avais beaucoup de cuves. 4 récoltes pleines. Il a tout dégusté, il a passé la journée pratiquement dans la cave. Et en partant le soir, il m'a demandé la permission de prendre des échantillons. Et il m'a dit, eh ben, écoutez, il faut quand même faire une mise en bouteille très rapidement. Moi, j'étais à bout de trésorerie. Hein? Je ne peux pas faire la mise. Et il m'a dit, mais ça, c'est pas un problème. Il m'a dit, dans ce cas-là, je suis certaine de le vendre au vin, donc je vous avancerai l'argent de la mise en bouteille.
Et comment s'appelle ce monsieur?
Peter,
Peter Fessel. Alors, interesting. When she starts, after 3-4 years, she's making wine. So she has the wine in the cellar, but she doesn't sell it, or very little, because she doesn't know how to sell it. And then a sample of one of her wine makes its way to a Paris tasting of professional people. And then one day she receives a call from an American gentleman who's a commercial agent. It was based in France, but he's doing business with wine in the US and so on. Peter Vezen, that's his name. And he said, yeah, well, I tasted one of your wines and it was really, really interesting, really good. Yeah, you know, I would like to know more about it. So they start talking over the phone. She explains what she does and so on. It's, yeah, well, probably I would like to come and see you at some point if it's all right and visit you. She said, yes. So first she talks to her husband. She said, yeah, this guy, you know, the wines, he liked it very much. And nobody ever visited or tasted the wines, and suddenly this guy calls out of the blue, and she's really, really excited. And she said, yeah, did I say the wines were good and so on? Then after a few days, she doesn't hear from him anymore. So she said, yeah, maybe the guy takes the wine, get very hyper about it, and nothing happened. Then eventually he did call and did come to visit her, and at this time she had 4 vintages in the vats that were not bottled, simply because she had no money to bottle wine. And so he tasted all the wines, and he stayed the whole day, and it was really, really still extremely positive about the wines. And he said, okay, yeah, well, you know, I would like to import some of this wine to the US. I'm sure we can do well. And so, but she said, yes, it's okay, but you know, I cannot finance the bottling of these wines. So the guy said, okay, no worries. I'm very sure I can deal these wines in the US. So the guy basically financed the bottling of the wine, so he could import it into the US. And so that's how it started.
Amazing.
And at this time, she said, you know, you mentioned about Parker and so on that probably tasted later on, but at this time, very early, she had no clue who Parker was, no idea whatsoever. She didn't know anyone in wine, you know, and the American guy who called us said, yeah, you know, I deal with wines from the Rhone Valley. Now he was mentioning some name of famous estates he was dealing with, or famous domain in Burgundy, and she said, yeah, the guy was dealing with this name. Okay, fine, but I don't know who they are, basically.
Hi, welcome to the National Prince Choice once again. And today we have Madame Marlene Soria and also the owner from Provence, the restaurant in Singapore. Frank is going to tell us more about the importance of this wonderful winery coming from this wonderful part of France. But Madame Marlene, can you tell us the name of the brand of your wine and why did you name it? And at the same time, you're here in Singapore. Tell us more how important is your presence here with Provence restaurant. And folks, please remember, you can get only her wines at Provence restaurant here in Singapore.
Donc, 2 questions. C'est quelle importance de venir ici à Singapour, et aussi l'origine du nom du domaine Provence. Comment tu as choisi ce nom Provence?
Alors le nom du domaine, la racine, c'est le nom cadastral des parcelles, c'est les pays Ralph, il y avait des bâtiments, c'était le mas des pays. Et rose, parce que j'ai une attache particulière et sentimentale sur tout ce que représente le mot rose, les fleurs, la couleur, le prénom de ma maman. Et donc je savais que j'ai toujours su que je ferais quelque chose un jour, que je rajouterais ce mot.
Et père, en fait, ça va être le nom des pierres en quoi?
En Occident, c'est Pays Ralph. C'est un endroit où il y a beaucoup de pierres.
A pear rose, there are two names in it. Pear rose. Pear is the name of stone in the Occitan dialect from Languedoc. So the place that she purchased, the whole property she acquired, the name was pear, perals, that is stones, because you have a lot of stones on this place. Rose is something that, of course, it's a color that she enjoys very much for the flowers and so on. It's also the first name of mother. So that's a sentimental value for her. This rose is not just about the color, but also something with the mother.
Couleur de ton ADN.
Pourquoi?
C'est le journaliste italien qui a écrit ça. Ça devait être la couleur de mon ADN. L'ADN a une couleur, la mienne c'était rose.
I said because recently he had this interview by an Italian journalist some months ago, and he said, yeah, maybe if there's a color to your ADN, this is pink. It must be the color of your ADN, so that's why she liked probably this whole thing.
You're in Singapore now, and how important is your presence here with Provence Restaurant?
Oui, alors venir à Singapour pour la première fois, venir ici à Provence.
Ben oui, c'est parce que bon, j'ai eu une rencontre avec Franck, mais pour venir justement pour découvrir ce pays qui est quand même magique, fabuleux, et donc très intéressant.
Well, it's really traveling, you have to see what she did and how she did it. She worked on her own for a long time, and moving out of Languedoc was never very easy because you have a lot of work and vineyards, you have to look after it. So finally now she can travel a bit more. And well, we met a couple of years ago. Provence is basically a restaurant that we opened. But our primary business is wine import. This is what we're doing for the past 13 years in Singapore. We import wine and we distribute it to either private wine enthusiasts or restaurants and hotels. So Provence is an extension of our business to showcase the wines in a proper environment with interesting food. So for Marlene to come, she was always very keen to travel to Asia. She's been to Shanghai before, she's been to Tokyo, but that was the first time in Singapore, so she was very, very curious to take a look at it, and happy to be here.
Well, could you tell us where our viewers could get online for the wonderful wine here in Singapore and Southeast Asia? Is there a website for it?
We work on this website. In fact, we're pretty discreet in this cyber age, I would say. We're working a bit on the website, something for people to get and know us. But in fact, now we've been in Singapore for quite a number of years, and there's a lot of word of mouth with what we're doing, the wine we're doing. So of course the wines, we can find them in Provence, obviously, but there are other sommeliers, and I'm happy to report that in the past few years in Singapore, there's been quite a bit of change on the restaurant scene. I'm sure you have observed that, and more people are looking for different wines, and the wines of southern France are coming into the radar. For us, we always enjoyed the top wines of southern France, so we've been bottling them for many years, including at a time when nobody would really consider them. This is all right. Now it's different, and of course, the wine of Marlene are always on top of the list because she's a recognized person for Languedoc, and so now you can find the wines. Of course, you can buy them from Estima, our company. Come and enjoy them in Provence, but you can enjoy them at Guy Savoy, where we will have a dinner tomorrow. You can enjoy them at Bistrot du Sommelier in Armenian Street, a few other places, probably very soon at André's Chong's restaurant, and so on. So it's you have more chances to find these wines very soon.
Once again, thank you, Madame Marlene Soria, and as well as Mr. Frank from Provence Restaurant. I'm Robin Stienberg here at Leisure Critics' Choice from New York, and please, travelers all around the world, please, if you do come by to Singapore or any parts of Southeast Asia, look out for Provence restaurant, or if not, you can always look out for Estima on their website or whatsoever
Sure.
for more information.
All right.
Once again,
Cheers. Thank you.
thank you and bonjour.